Have you ever gotten to the end of a day and you're just completely wiped out, but you feel like you got absolutely nothing important done? If that sounds familiar, this is for you. And we're not talking about simple time management here. Nope, we are going way deeper, right down to the level of attentional engineering. We're going to build what I call the Focus Forge, a system designed to protect the single most valuable asset you have, your ability to think deeply. This is not about trying harder, it's about getting smart, understanding the biology of your own attention, and then redesigning your world to actually serve it. All right, let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with the huge paradox of modern work. We've all been taught that our value comes from being responsive, right? But the truth, the actual neuroergonomic truth, is the exact opposite. Every single time you flick your eyes over to a notification, every quick glance at your inbox, it's not free. It comes with a steep, invisible price tag. We'll call it a cognitive tax. And that tax is paid for with the very fuel your brain uses for real thought, glucose and precious neurotransmitters. You pay this tax again and again all day long until your mental bank account is just completely empty.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to identify the real enemy, the 1,000 paper cuts that are bleeding your focus dry. Then, we'll get into the real biological damage with the cognitive switching tax. After that, we'll build our solution, the Focus Forge protocol, and I'll show you the deep biology that makes it so incredibly powerful. And we'll wrap up with a super practical plan in your 1-meter reset, so you can walk away from this as the true architect of your focus.
Okay, section 1. Let's put a name to the problem. You know that feeling of being scattered? Like your best work is always just out of reach? Well, that's not a personal failure. It is not a lack of discipline. It's the result of 1,000 tiny, microscopic wounds inflicted on your attention all day, every day, all disguised as being responsive. It comes from this massive misunderstanding. The more responsive you try to be, the less capable you actually become. Let's dig into what's really going on inside your head.
You know, the big reframe here is how we think about focus. We treat it like it's a muscle, something you can just flex with willpower. But a much better way to think about it is like blood. Your ability to do deep, meaningful work is this finite, vital resource. In our modern work environment, with all the open tabs, the constant pings, the endless feeds, is designed to inflict these tiny, non-stop wounds that make this resource just leak out. A notification here, a Slack message there, each one is a little paper cut. By itself, it's nothing. But 1,000 of them over an 8-hour day, you are cognitively bleeding out, and you don't even realize it until you're too drained to do the work that actually matters.
And this really gets to the core of it all. We've been sold a complete lie. The lie is that your value is tied to how fast you react, that being the first one to reply to an email makes you a top performer. The neurological truth is that elite performance has literally nothing to do with multitasking. Real cognitive output, the kind that solves tough problems and creates massive value, it comes from subtraction. It's not about trying harder, it's about filtering better. It's about building a fortress around your attention and just ruthlessly getting rid of the thousands of little micro distractions that shatter your thinking into this low-resolution mess.
Okay, so now let's actually quantify this damage and see how it builds up into a real biological cost. Because this isn't just a feeling of being distracted, it is a measurable metabolic process. Every single time your attention gets yanked away from what you're doing, your brain pays a price. You slam into this invisible wall, and that wall has a name, the cognitive switching tax. And it's a tax paid in executive glucose, the premium fuel your brain needs for any kind of high-level thinking.
So the first part of this tax is something called the attentional blank. Now get this, imagine you're deep in thought on a complex problem, and you just glance at a notification. That glance might only take 1 second, right? But what the research shows is that for up to 30 seconds after that glance, your brain is basically blind to the complex details of what you were just working on. You're looking at the screen, but your brain hasn't fully re-engaged. You've just created a 30-second cognitive blackout with a 1-second distraction. Do that twice a minute, and you never, ever achieve deep thought. You're just stuck in a loop of perpetually rebooting.
And this leads perfectly to the second part of the tax, the resumption lag. See, getting back to your work isn't like flipping a light switch. It's more like rebooting a super complex computer program after it crashed. Your prefrontal cortex has to painstakingly reload the entire mental model of the task, the context, the variables, the goals, all the subtle connections. This whole reloading process takes a ton of time and burns a ton of metabolic energy. It's exactly why, after you check that quick text, you find yourself staring at your screen going, okay, where was I? That lag, that's where deep flow goes to die. You never get to cruising altitude because you keep getting dragged back to the runway.
So you put the attentional blank and the resumption lag together, and you get this state I call cognitive thinning. This is that horrible feeling of working a full day but producing work that just feels shallow, average, uninspired. You put in the hours, but because you never got true immersion, because your concentration was constantly being shattered, your thinking just stays on the surface. It's not that you're lacking ideas or talent, you're lacking the unbroken stretches of focus you need to actually develop them into something brilliant. It's like trying to build a cathedral, but you only get to lay one brick before you're forced to check your watch. And here it is. Here's the neurological bill for all of this. 200. On an average day, the part of your brain that directs your attention, it's called the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. It's forced to reorient your focus around 200 times. Think of the ACC like the gear shifter for your brain. Every single context switch is a hard shift, and every one has a metabolic cost. So by the end of the day, after 200 of these expensive reboots, your brain basically is an act of self-preservation, just vetoes your ability to think deeply. That brain fog you feel, that's not you being lazy. That's systemic metabolic depletion. Your brain is literally cutting power because you've asked it to shift gears way too many times.
So, that's the problem. It is systemic, it's biological, and it is relentless. And that means our solution can't just be, oh, I'll try harder, or I'll be more disciplined. The solution has to be systemic too. It has to be an act of engineering. So let's build the answer, the Focus Forge protocol. This is a three-part system for turning your environment from a cognitive drain into a neural accelerator. This is the RAM protector for your mind.
Now, what's so cool about this is the strategic shift it represents. Most productivity advice just tells you to use willpower, to just ignore the distractions. But willpower is like a smartphone battery. It's a fragile, depletable resource. Every time you resist a distraction, you're draining that battery. Environmental engineering, on the other hand, is about changing the structure of your world so that you barely even need to use willpower. It's a robust, permanent solution that works with your biology, not against it. It actually preserves your mental energy, creating what we can call an executive surplus, way more brainpower available for the work itself.
So, the protocol has 3 layers, and each one is designed to protect a different sensory input from being hijacked. First, the visual horizon audit, which cleans up the RAM of your visual cortex. Second, haptic decoupling, to get rid of all the buzzing and phantom vibrations that keep your nervous system on edge. And third, notification sterilization, which puts you back in command, shifting you from a reactive state dictated by machines to a proactive one.
You know, the whole philosophy of the Focus Forge is captured perfectly right here. Trying to work in a distracting environment is like trying to write a symphony next to a blaring fire alarm. Sure, you could try to use incredible willpower to ignore it, and maybe you'd succeed for a few minutes, but the cognitive cost of fighting that off would be so immense, you'd have nothing left for the actual music. The smarter, more effective, more permanent solution is to just get up, move to a quiet room, and close the door. We are going to engineer that quiet room for your mind.
But why does engineering this quiet room work so well on a neurological level? Well, this isn't just about feeling better. It's about fundamentally changing how your brain processes information. It's about manually improving your brain's natural ability for what's called sensory gating, filtering out irrelevant noise. We're going to shift power away from the primitive, reactive parts of your brain that are always scanning for threats, and we're going to redirect that energy to the CEO of your brain, the part that handles deep, deliberate thought. We are literally going to overclock your cognitive throughput.
And this chart illustrates the idea perfectly. In a typical high-noise environment, full of visual clutter and digital pings, the signal of your own valuable thoughts is really weak. It just gets drowned out by all the noise. But when you use the Focus Forge protocol to systematically strip away that environmental noise, the signal of your internal thoughts doesn't just get a little clearer. Neuroscientific models suggest it can become up to 300% more powerful. Your ideas get sharper, your connections are faster, your insights are deeper. You're finally giving your own mind the clean bandwidth it deserves. When that signal-to-noise ratio gets this high, your brain can achieve a state called neural coherence. This is the biological signature of being in the zone, of peak performance. It's a state where all of your available mental energy, all that precious executive glucose, is being invested in solving the actual problem, not being wasted on the exhausting background task of constantly ignoring the world. You go from being stressed and hypervigilant to being in a state of deep, effortless immersion. Your environment stops being an enemy you have to fight and starts being a sanctuary that protects you.
Okay, theory is awesome, but let's make this real. This is where the rubber meets the road.
I am going to coach you through a simple but incredibly powerful micro-audit that you can do on your workspace the second this is over. And this isn't a suggestion. Think of it as a tactical drill. This is your 1 meter reset.
Here are the 3 steps. Step 1, the 1 meter rule. Look at your desk right now. Everything within a 1 meter radius of you that is not the primary tool for your current task, your computer, a notebook, it needs to go. Every stray object is a low-level distraction competing for attention. Clear the surface to clear your mind. Step 2, the haptic fast. Take off your smartwatch. Now take your phone and physically put it in another room. Out of sight is not enough. It has to be out of reach. This disconnects your nervous system from the digital world's random reward pings. Step 3, the notification kill switch. Go into your settings and turn off every single notification. Badges, banners, sounds that doesn't come directly from another human being needing your immediate help. Sterilize your digital world.
And remember, the goal here isn't to work longer or harder, is to fundamentally change the quality of your attention. The goal is to finish your work and realize that you felt sharp, not scattered. Scattered is the feeling of a drained brain and cognitive thinning. Sharp is the feeling of neural coherence and having that executive surplus. You're not adding more effort, you are removing the friction that makes effort feel so draining and unproductive in the first place.
So, let's bring it all together. We've diagnosed the problem of the 1,000 paper cuts, we understand the biology of the cognitive switching tax, and now we have a practical protocol to fight back. The final step is to embrace a new identity. You are not a victim of distraction. You are the architect of your focus. You are a high-performance, attentional engineer.
If there is one single idea I really want you to take away from all of this, it is this. Deep focus is not a personality trait. It is not some gift that a few lucky people have and others don't. It is an engineered outcome. It is the direct result of intentional, deliberate design of your environment. You cannot outgrit a toxic attentional environment. Your biology will always win that fight, but you can rebuild that environment to serve your biology.
So, here is your challenge for today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. As soon as this is over, conduct a simple focus audit on your main workspace. Find the 1% tweaks that are going to give you a 10 times return on your attention. Clear the desk, kill the pings, and most importantly, move the phone. Take command of your 1 meter radius and just watch how it transforms the entire landscape of your mind.
I'll leave you with this final thought, a mantra for the Focus Forge. Greatness isn't about how much you can handle, it's about how much you can subtract until only the essential is left. Protect the signal, clear the noise, because when you harden the space, you free the mind.